I'm Jamie Adams, and I really don't like my computer right now.
I'm Iain McAllister, and I'm on the wrong podcast.
And I'm Richard Simpson, and I've just come up with a fantastic idea for a new podcast. Welcome to the News Spellcast with me. It's a subdivision of We're Not Wizards, and it's going to all be about kind of news items, and nobody else has ever thought about it before. Isn't that right, gentlemen?
Never heard of it before myself.
I think you're going to break some major ground.
Absolutely.
I think we're already had to have a damn fine kind of conversation, and everybody's going to be listening to this and saying, This isn't. I'm confused. What are you trying to change the format? Is this something new? Are you trying to do it? And it's like, no, it's fine. It's all good.
It's a Brainwaves hostile takeover.
Brainwaves hostile takeover. It's all right. I'm just going to threaten you with like computers and stuff like that, because that seemed to work. Hello, everybody who's out there. The reason that we've got these fine gentlemen on is that there is a wonderful podcast out there called Brainwaves, and what Brainwaves does on a regular basis is they go out and they dig pits and they cover it with branches, and on top of these branches they put little meeples, and then what will happen is Games News will come up and go, ooh, meeples, and they'll come over and they'll fall in the pit, and then Jamie will come along and he's got his net, and he'll pick them up and he'll put them in his acting and board game net, and he'll bring them back into Brainwaves tires. He'll show them Ian, and Ian will say, that's rubbish. And that's how it is.
That is pretty much how it works.
While Sam's standing in the background just shaking his head, wondering how he got involved in this kerfuffle in the first place. And that's kind of it. But so there you go. So hi gentlemen, how you doing?
Not bad at all.
Hello? Yeah, hi there. I didn't realise anyone was watching my news gathering procedures.
I stream them live online now. It's got a few hundred, subscribers on the YouTube channel of Jamie Catches News.
I think you'll find it's a closely guarded trade secret. So now you know.
No,
Keep it to
we
yourself.
can cut this out later. That's fine.
I'm gonna, yeah. You're gonna be in for a shock when you realise I don't edit.
Oh dear.
The reason, I guess, the reason that everybody is here this evening is because Ian was on the show a long time ago. It might have been potentially well over a year ago. I think it was potentially like kind of January, and at the time, you and me had a little chat, and that chat was about the beginning of Brainwaves, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was sort of a twinkle in my eye at that point. It wasn't really a thing as yet. I was just starting to think about putting out a podcast, and sort of a news style show podcast. Mm-hmm. Originally sort of along the lines of like the day-to-day and more sort of like piss take sort of kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And we did try that. Like we did an early test, myself, Jamie and Sam, of a show that was like that sort of day-to-day brass eye kind of style, but that didn't quite work for us. And we settled on a more sort of casual format, which is what Brainwaves has now become. It's really good.
Yeah. I think it's difficult to be kind of go out the way to be funny. Yeah. I think it's when you realise it's like comedy writing is really, really hard. It's not just
Yep. Comedy for comedy's sake, I think, is extremely difficult. And yeah, everyone says, oh, comedy's easy. It is absolutely not. Because I remember the first podcast I think we did was more leaning towards that satirical style, and again we didn't really feel it worked. And the second one we did was very, very straight-laced, and again we went, no, we'll find somewhere nice in the middle.
Yeah,
and we got it, and we've been there ever since. It took us
a few episodes to sort of relax into it a bit and sort of like let our personalities come through a bit more, but yeah, eventually got there, and yeah, got a nice mix of sort of like news, serious subject matters, and ridiculous nonsense.
Which is kind of what you kind of need. In the general kind of scheme of things, you guys are you're quite unusual in the type of content that you kind of put out there, because there's still very much kind of guys and gals getting around a mic and discussing kind of what they've been playing. Yeah. Or they're getting around and they're getting a guest on, which, I mean, I'm kind of like, I actively kind of fear sometimes when I see, and here's somebody I've had on the show quite recently has appeared on another 3 or 4 podcasts within a kind of a quick succession. I mean, was that something that you guys kind of took into consideration when you were considering kind of putting it together, that you were wanting to do something kind of different than what was out there already?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, shall I go? Oh, I came to.
You go first.
I think put up your hand
of,
if you want to talk. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like his hands.
But you can only see my hand, so.
So when I first started thinking about putting out a podcast, I was aware of sort of like what else was out there.
Yeah.
Like you say, there's a lot of shows that are people just talking about games they like playing or like getting guests on, like yourself and that kind of thing. And we didn't really feel that there was any sort of gap in that market for us to fit into. I couldn't figure out like a way to get in there and do something that was sort of kind of same to that, but with our own twist on it. And I realised there wasn't really a news show out there. I'd been listening to a lot of like The Bugle and podcasts like that. And I was started to think about, well, could we put together something short and sharp, sort of half an hour to 45 minutes was the original sort of target. And I realised also that I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't just be one person reading the news because that would be incredibly dull. So I reached out to Jamie and Sam, who I knew from Tabletop Cafe, the long-lamented Tabletop Cafe, unfortunately, in Edinburgh. And yeah, we went from there, like sort of forming together like a little news show, and it's now in the format it's in, with thoughts or headlines and actual news bits and pieces, and the skits and sketches that we do now and again, which is mostly down to Sam, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight because he's quite busy. Yeah, Sam does all our audio editing and making us sound like not fools, pretty much.
He is the audio wizard. Before we started Brainwaves, Sam and I had a very, very shortly lived podcast that was basically just me and him sitting with mics next to each other, talking about the news, but also just talking about what we've been playing. So it was a little bit of mixture of that kind of what everyone's doing and a proto-genesis of what evolved into Brainwaves, where we just fire stories back at each other about the board game news, and then somehow always find a story about Monopoly, which recently has been bled into Brainwaves, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, so Monopoly news is a firm favourite.
Subtly been introduced over the period of time, I mean, previously we had Iain on the show, as I say, a while ago, and we found out a little bit about his origin story, his harsh upbringing, tramping the streets of Edinburgh, wearing obviously Monopoly boards for shoes, having to burn meeples to survive, trying to get away with kind of using Monopoly money to buy food. And
did you have to bring this up, Richard? I mean,
doing that small stint in the workhouse, and eventually, kind of breaking away and becoming the man and the man mountain that he is today.
The man and the myth.
He is going from town to town, getting into adventures, using the art of kung fu. That's Kane. Anyway. Jamie,
we're very similar.
That's what I saw. I saw from the photograph that you looked like you had actually been in a fight and you'd won, which is always good. But Jamie, as far as your good self's concerned, and the kind of the world of pressed and printed trees, where did you kind of cut your teeth? Obviously not eating a Monopoly board like Iain, but where did you kind of cut your teeth originally in the hobby yourself?
Apart from playing a lot of games as a kid, I guess it was around 2013 or 2012, 2013, and I saw a BuzzFeed article about here's some board games that you might like to try, and there was a whole host of them, and I thought, that seems kind of interesting, and one of them caught my eye, called King of Tokyo.
Oh yeah.
So I bought it, and I played it, and I loved it, and that was kind of the slippery slope for me.
What was it you liked at the game at the time? What was it kind of caught your imagination?
I don't know, I'm trying to think back on it. It was quite a simple mechanic, but it also, it was simple, but it was kind of brought out really well, the theme. I think I quite enjoyed the the monsters beating each other up. And I think I could bring it to quite a few tables of friends and go, here's this board game. You know, it looks complicated. It's really not. What do you guys think? And they all really loved it. And then slowly I started to become more and more addicted. And then I moved to Edinburgh for a few years to study. And that's when my addiction got really bad. And I met Iain and I met Sam. And it's just continued from there.
Do you have quite a reasonable collection then? I mean, are you kind of a person that's just like, just one more box, and it can go under the bed, or it can go in the cupboard, or it can go next to the cereal, or you know.
I'd say yes and no. I think my collection right now is probably about 60 odd games. It's right behind me, so I don't really want to turn around and spoil the audio. And I am trying to throw things out and give things away to friends right now. But there is an occasion of, right, I'll buy maybe one board game a month. Maybe. Yeah. And so far it's...
has it been a maybe?
It's going
okay. Been maybe 3. Or has it been...
It's been maybe 2 or 3 so far.
Bad. Do you... I'm guessing that if you're playing games quite a lot with Iain and Sam then. So collectively as a group, do you make collective decisions about kind of ownership? Like, I mean, for instance, do you have a discussion about, are you likely to everybody to buy the same copy of the game? Like, have you all got, like, going to have the King of Tokyo? Are you all going to buy Sagrada? Are you all going to buy, Azul? Or do you generally decide between the three of you, well, if we are going to be playing regularly, maybe only I'll pick up a copy and then you can get the next game?
Well, sad to say, we don't really actually play together that much. Since starting Brainwaves, we have maybe played together 2 times or 3 times, Iain?
Yeah, something like that.
And the last
we're trying to get together a little bit more regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time was about a month ago when Sam and Iain came over to Glasgow, and we played a couple of games at the Lucky Sparrow Game Cafe in Pollokshaws, which was very nice. But no, sometimes most of the time it's, I've got this game. Cool. It's this sort of unspoken, what's in my collection. Yeah, if you want, you can borrow it. And before we met up, we've obviously got some overlap in games, but
I mean, I've got a copy of King of Tokyo, for instance, because it's great.
Yeah, and I know we've both got Captain Sonar.
But like Jamie has Dinosaur Island, which I haven't played yet, but I do want to. But I'm not going to buy it to play it because at some point, Jamie, Sam, and I will get together and we can play it. And Jamie also has a copy of Root we played recently, so I'm not going to get on board with that right now until I played it a bit more. So yeah, there's definitely we definitely sort of use each other's games collections a bit to sort of try out games and see if we don't like to add them to our own. It's helpful that way. We are trying to. I think we're going to be trying to get together a little bit more frequently, maybe every sort of couple of months over the next year or so, just to play games together and have a chat about the cast and play things together so we can review them and talk about them on the cast, especially if we want to do one of the skits we do. It's good if like all 3 of us have played them so that we can get an idea of like what we want to have in that skit, what bits of that game we want to take out and put into a wee sketch.
Yeah, I suppose it would make much sense if you guys are doing a King of Tokyo sketch and talking about rolling dice and smashing cities, and Sam's in the corner doing, I'm just going to place my worker meeple here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like,
well, funnily enough, a lot of that does happen because a few of the sketches has just been me kind of writing by myself and for the boys. Games like Deep Sea Adventure from Oink Games. I know you, Iain and Sam have played, but it's brilliant. I love it, but I don't think they played it to the extent that I've played it with a couple of friends. Or games like the first one we ever did was my piss take of photosynthesis.
Yeah, very first episode.
At which point I'd been the only person that had played that, so that was me just kind of trying to feel my way out and go, right, I quite like this game. I wonder if they will as well. And then cut to I think it was our second meet up and play. I brought photosynthesis, and I remember Iain, definitely you going, I really like this game.
It's the best game of Angry Trees. It's fantastic. Love photosynthesis.
I was about to say it's the only game of Angry Trees, but there's actually one coming out very soon.
Really?
Yeah, there's a game called Bosk.
Okay.
I thought that was a bounty hunter in Star Wars, but
I believe it is, but but I believe this was one only has one S.
Well, that's
important.
Okay, that's okay then.
So it's all about those little details. Just as wee little details.
It just makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So with the podcast growing and you getting kind of like regular following, is it kind of a pleasant surprise to see the kind of the numbers grow? I mean, I'm not sitting here going, "No, they were destined to fail. It's rubbish," but I'm going to say, do you get kind of like these little kind of, because I still get the kind of like, I'll look at the numbers and I'll go, "Oh, you know, somebody's just gone out and downloaded all of our episodes," which means it's jumped up by like, you know, the 50,000 or whatever episodes that I've got out there. But do you still do you find yourselves are you still at the stage of looking at the stats? Do you both look at the stats, or do you kind of like say, look, what will be will be? I mean, do you still look at the stats yourself, Ian, quite a lot at the moment?
Oh yeah, fairly regularly, to be honest. I'm kind of obsessed with them still.
You usually update us before every recording session we do. You kind of go, right, here's what we're looking at, and that's I don't know how you feel, Ian, but it's amazing and terrifying to me that it's going there. Okay, so we're recording this, and there are people that are wanting to listen, but not only that, it's people who are wanting to listen who I don't even know and are not even in this country. It was like we went down to UK Games Expo, where I went down for the first time last year, and I bumped into a friend of Ian's. Was there, and he introduced it, and this guy went, "Oh, Jamie, I've heard your voice a lot, but never met you." And I just went, "You've been listening to you've been listening to that nonsense I've been spouting?" Oh my god!
Still blows my mind as well. I mean, we've got listeners like yourself as well, Richard. You all have listeners the world over. It's just utterly mind blowing. It's like there's people listening to us in like South America and Norway and Sweden and Canada.
People really like us in Sweden, and I'm wondering what it is. It's like I've gone down the countries, and you're like, it's really funny because you talk about breaking, you know, it's like breaking the states. But once you get like into the United States, it's like all of a sudden it's like you see, well, originally it used to be United States were like 25% of the audience. I was like, okay, that's fine. And I did a little challenge where I tried to get a listener or a download in every single state. And I eventually went on Twitter and went, "Does nobody live in North Dakota? Do you not even have," you know? And eventually somebody actually went out and you know, it was the same with Alaska, but I think it's Jack at the Cardboard Herald. He's from Alaska. So it's like, Jack, please download my show.
I haven't looked at our state breakdown. I should do at some point.
Download my show, please. It's just one of these weird things. You kind of set yourself challenges, but now it's like our split in the audience is like we get more downloads in America. So I'm wondering if I should occasionally Americanize things, but then I'm just going to sound like a Scottish guy drunk trying to sing American Pie. It's not going to be a good thing. It's not going to end out kind of
open
well.
each episode with the national anthem and like a little pitch you'd be saluting and everything will be fine.
I don't know.
But maybe appeal to different countries by doing a different national anthem each
there
time.
you go.
I think that would probably be something I'll write down.
We should do that as well, Jamie.
And then throw away.
And maybe burn after reading that kind of thing. But it is really kind of really exciting, and it's really exciting how it just keeps on growing. And it's like as long as you're doing
it's really odd. It's a weird thing to watch and see happen. And I still have imposter syndrome quite hard, but it's you just keep looking at it and going like, well, people seem to be still enjoying it, and we're picking up a new listener here and there, and it's all good. It's great.
Well, imposter syndrome kind of hit me the hardest at AirCon because I went in before because I had my press pass. It's like my orange press pass. I was like,
press
pass.
Oh, your fancy
my press pass, which is just
yeah.
orange instead of like black and white, be like press pass. And you kind of go in and go press pass. And then I was down at the game testing thing, and Paul Grogan was there. Yeah, Game and Rules. So I went and said hello to him, and then Rodney Smith is sitting at the table talking to somebody, and the Polyhedron Collider guys are there, and we had the kind of the hellos, and I had the awkward hug with John that started off awkward, but then was quite warm, and then I went, "Do I go over to Rodney Smith and say hello?" And it's like that second, it's like, no, yes, no, don't say anything stupid. Go over, say hello, but don't say anything stupid. don't say howdy or anything. Don't, just go over and do it. And I kind of went over and I said hello, and I went, oh, I'm from, We're Not Wizards. And he went, yeah, I've heard of you. And I just went, huh?
Nice.
Like that. But it's because he had listened to the episode where Mark was on. Because the last time Mark Cook was on the show, we spoke about him making kind of Rodney breakfast and everything like that. So it was kind of fine, but it was kind of nice. But also at the same time, I'm like going, this is really, really weird. Because I watch you on the videos. And there you are, sitting in front of me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to deal with this. I might just have to run out of the room.
What are you doing here? Not like on the videos. What are you doing being a person?
Bigger in real life.
I need to get like a cardboard frame and put it round you so I can pretend you're still kind of on the screen. But it's kind of cool meeting people.
That bigger than life thing. I went the Dice Tower. We're at UKG, and I met Tom Vassell, and he's huge.
Is he?
Yeah, I'm 6 foot
he's a big
two and a bit, but he's like 6'4".
I never had Tom Vassell pegged as a. Granted, when the guy's shaking the stuff out the box, that's some fairly big handwork that must be going on.
You got to get some, yeah. But no, he's like 6'4", 6'5" by the look of him.
I always had him as like a good 5'11", maybe 5'11 and a half, potentially. He's really that big.
There might still be some photos on my Facebook account of me and Tom Vassell, and I'm dwarfed by him, and it's terrifying. But he is that wonderful, warm, and that kind of warm, friendly, inviting kind of persona, but still looms over you.
It's kind of like I knew you were big in tabletop, but I didn't realise you were actually really big in tabletop kind of thing. As kind of time goes on. Yeah. One of the things that happens when people kind of start on the podcast is you get kind of like the 8th or 9th month, or even before like the first year, which where you guys are, and you kind of get format questions and stuff like that. So have you I know, Ian, you were talking about imposter syndrome, but have you kind of ever had kind of meetings or discussions to say, guys, we only got 15 downloads instead of 17. We need to throw everything out. We need to start again. We need to look at the format. Have you had that kind of discussion at all?
No.
As I said before, every episode, Ian usually says, right, this is kind of what we're doing. And it's never we're not doing well enough, we need to chuck everything to start it all again. It's just, it's been a little bit lower than normal when we go. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think the format's pretty tight, and we're used to it now. And we try to keep like the main cast gets kept quite tight, so it's like sort of 30 to 35 minutes at most. Mm-hmm. One of the things we did sort of towards the end of last year was we rebooted the Patreon to be a lot bit better value for people who actually wanted to give us money. Thank you very much for everyone who does that. That still sort of blows our minds as well, that anyone actually wants to give us money to do this as well.
That's so weird.
It is really strange.
Terrifying and amazing in equal measure.
So we rebooted that, and because we are cutting the cast anyway, we now put out an extended version of the cast to all our patrons, and we now are doing a second cast, which is basically what we were talking about earlier, which is the three of us sitting around chatting about the games we've played in the last month or two. And that goes out to like a slightly higher tier of patrons. And it's relatively easy and straightforward to put together because we're not putting the level of editing we are into the main cast, which involves a lot more sort of jiggery pokery and all the skits and that kind of thing that Sam does. I can basically edit
a lot more.
Yeah, I can edit the sort of Idle Thoughts cast, which is our sister cast, where we just chat about stuff together myself without too much problem.
Do you feel pressure to put like more additional content out for the patrons? Because I kind of I don't, and I feel bad about it. And then I'll have like this month is the month where I end up structuring everything and actually putting out kind of episodes kind of early and stuff like that. And I always feel that I've never, and this is my own fault, I've never taken it kind of seriously enough, because I guess I've got that imposter syndrome where I think, I don't know why you're all giving me money anyway.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if I just turn out if I kind of know that you're there and not acknowledge you, maybe you'll eventually kind of say, okay, well, we're just going to move on kind of thing. But do you feel as I said, do you feel like a little bit of a sense of pressure to kind of add in the extra content and things like that to kind of keep things going?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to sort of restructure it is because, like, originally we weren't really adding any kind of value to the patrons that were giving us money already, and I wanted to sort of give something back to them more than anything, which is where we came up with the idea of a sort of a second edition, is what we call it, a version of the cast, with just a bit more stuff in it, maybe a little bit more of the banter. Sometimes full extra articles get cut. Just like we're editing down a newspaper, effectively, like choosing the bits and pieces after we've gone through everything, because sometimes stuff,
or some of our more massive tangents, which I think I'm pretty bad for. You are
the tangent king, but I mean, it's good stuff, and people seem to like it.
If I wear one crown.
I just like to point it out this time that we did have to cut a whole segment of Jamie talking about favourite cheeses to eat on a summer's day, so it's just this is the bits that you're missing, but we're not going to put it out in the Patreon. But no, I mean, I kind of know what you're saying. As I say, it's kind of like I'm in two minds. I'd love to put something else out, but I realise it's going to be kind of additional work, and I'm not sure I have the time because I'm a podcasting fool that records too much.
I mean, that's the way. That's why we went for the extended cast, because we sort of had the extended cast anyway, because of the way we edit it. We edit everything together. We sort of edit it to whatever it is, and then we cut out the bits that we think, just to get it down to the 30 minutes. So we kind of had that anyway, and we thought it'd just be a nice little extra to give to the patrons. And then we wanted to restructure it so that, like, we could put out the Idle Thoughts cast relatively easily as well. And we've got like a third tier of like $5, which are the Lucky Sparrow Games Cafe are only backers at that level, which we'll just sort of give them stuff every now and again when we have it to give. Yeah. Very, very nice of them, but yeah, it's just for people who want to give us that money. Thank you.
Do you have a lot of do you do a lot of editing then? I mean, are you like kind of like the kind of, and for every 100 grams of cooked meat, we start off with kind of 130 grams of raw stuff? That's a terrible analogy. I might just cut it.
But I completely understand it. No, I understand.
Well, everybody does, doesn't they? Yeah, exactly. You know, you're.
I know, I get it. The analogies are very difficult, and I know I stretch for them at best of times, as anyone who listens to the podcast will hear with my things about. I don't
triangular
know.
boards.
That was a slip of the tongue.
I will never let you forget it.
No, I know. Have to speak to Iain and Sam about the editing, because basically I show up, talk a lot of bollocks, and they go, "We'll edit it." And I go, "Okay."
Yeah. I mean, we don't generally lose a lot of time out of the cast. Like, for instance, our last one, I think, was 50 minutes raw.
Yeah.
And then once I edited it down, I basically do a first pass edit, which is just like getting rid of like little noises and like removing stuff that is just like sheer nonsense rather than just banter, just like stuff like count-ins and things like that.
Us messing
up, or like starting an article and then losing the thread halfway through and just stopping and starting again, that kind of stuff. So I do the first pass of that.
A couple of takes.
That got that last one down to about 45 minutes, and then once Sam puts back in music and does a final edit, that went back up to about 50 or so. So we do 2 edits every week. I do the raw, and then Sam puts in like the music, and Sam also does all the skit work as well, because he's an audio genius and I don't know how to.
Who's responsible for gathering the news then? I mean, because that's a relatively big part. You just go all out, and so the digging a pit, covering it with branches, covering it with meeples.
Not too far wrong, really. Yeah, but basically, I put a drive doc together every week. We coordinate everything in Asana, which is sort of like you can use it for free. It's like a sort of business organization app thing, but it's all browser based. But yeah, so we share all that stuff in there. There's a drive doc with all of our news in it, and we just stuff things in there. Little headline, little link to what it is, some bullet point notes, and then when we actually meet up on like a Monday or Tuesday to do the cast, we chat about like, is this good? Should we leave it in? That kind of thing, and then just run at it basically.
Yeah,
because I know usually we're trying not to go for this being the board game news. Oh, there's a new game out. Oh, there's a new game announced. Oh, it's a new game on Kickstarter. Now we do that quite a few times. Like for example, in the extended cast that's out for this most recent one, the entire thing is the entire cut article pretty much is about the new Games Workshop things revealed at Gamma.
Yeah.
Which we kind of went, we'll leave it in the extended cast because at the end of the day, it's more Games Workshop, and there's always more Games Workshop.
Yeah. Whereas in one of the recent casts, you were talking about the It board game, and kind of leaving that in to talk about obviously the Monopoly version, the Cluedo version, and then the additional version that they were going to be kind of bringing out as well, which kind of is an interesting take considering we're kind of in the middle of the release of kind of like the two films. The kind of
the It cycle,
and franchises is something we talked about in the cast before. I think had we done a brainstorm about it? I don't recall.
I believe we have done brainstorms about it, or if not, we've all complained about it various
times. Like Jamie says, we try to steer away from just raw new releases all the time because you can get that a lot of places. Like Polyhedron Collider put out a really good newsletter now about sort of new Kickstarters and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I really need to stop saying that kind of thing. I've noticed it on recent casts. I say it a lot. This is the problem. It's a problem with editing your own voice. It's like you listen and you're like, I sound terrible, and I say this all the time. But yeah, you can get it like Eric Martin on Board Game Geek puts out board game news, new release stuff, and like you can just get that stuff everywhere pretty much. We touch on it now and again. If there's something that interests us in particular, we'll definitely stick it in the cast because we don't want to avoid it entirely. But we do try to find the more interesting stuff that's more like news about board games, like last cast, the bridge doping scandal, which was absolutely fantastic.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
I just laughed.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
I listened to that a couple of days ago. I was just laughing.
Yeah.
Laughing hard at it. It was just, imagine I'm just like, how do you even go about that? I'm just going, so how you doing? Oh, it was a good game there. Can we get a sample? And it's like, oh, what, and then the next thing, imagine him sitting at kind of breakfast, and then they kind of knock the door, the doorbell rings because it's going to be a recorded letter. You go to the door and he's like, oh, cool, this will be, my check for my winnings, and it's like a letter from the either the Olympic Committee or the governing body of bridge saying, right, mate, banned. You're just like,
it's mad.
Because
I was telling some friends about it, and we got onto the subject of really weird Olympic events.
Yeah.
Just like if Bridge was actually in, and here we have, very quiet, the contract bridge. Slovenia versus Kazakhstan. It's the match of the decade. Like, we started talking about really stupid events that existed and really stupid Olympics, and the one that I always go, it's the gold standard for nonsense, is the 1900 Olympics in Paris, when there were things like a long jump for horses, a high jump for horses, ballooning, cannon shooting,
was the ballooning for horses
as well? A swimming
as
obstacle race.
Ballooning for horses?
No, sadly not. But there was a swimming obstacle race in the Seine.
That would have been amazing.
Oh, are there pictures or anything?
Who
of this?
wouldn't?
Drawings?
No, because it's in 1900s, Ian.
Paintings?
I don't know.
You can just imagine.
I don't know. Look
and he's
online.
going, and he's passing. He's passing the slurry. There's a that's a suspicious.
Amazing.
Well, it was only a 200 meters, but it was like over and under some series of boats, and meanwhile the current of the Seine. Who wouldn't want to see modern Olympics?
Do you look at that? Let's look at that. It's floating past him. It's the size of a baguette. Okay.
Well, one thing about the size of that, it was extraordinary.
Back to the studio.
I'm so sorry, but it's my little Olympic tangent.
That's fine.
Tangent
Don't worry about it.
We recently did
company.
We recently did a sketch on Champion of the Wild where your Olympic voices came in quite handy, especially your Scottish one.
That's true, but that's my nonsense voice.
That was pretty special.
In terms of other content, I mean, we spoke kind of briefly in the green room about kind of like the reviews that you're writing as well. Are you still Are you still kind of writing as many reviews as you used to, or you would like to, Ian? Or you? Is it?
I've slowed down a wee bit. I'm not putting them out like quite as much weekly as I used to.
Yeah.
I've just slowed down a wee bit to try and get the quality up a wee bit, take a little bit more time over different things. I'm trying to put them out sort of on a Wednesday now. I've moved the sort of date that I usually release them on, just because the podcast goes out on a Monday now. We shifted things about a little bit from our original sort of release schedule. But yeah, I'm not getting quite as much out as I'd like. I'm trying to catch up and get ahead of myself a wee bit. I've got this Beyond the Veil series for the Arkham Horror LCG, which I really need to catch up on. But I recently put out an Arkham Horror Beginner's Guide, which has been doing phenomenally well. It's been extremely popular. I think it's my most popular article ever. Just thousands of people coming to learn about the game, which is great.
But I think it's something that people will always be. You get these evergreen kind of things as well. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the ones that are written for this is how you play Netflix, or as Netflix, Netrunner, Netflix. This is how you play Netflix. Well, press the Netflix.
You could play Bandersnatch.
Oh my word! Did you play that?
I did.
I never.
Did you not see it? I did. What did you think of it, Ian?
I really, really liked it. I'm not sure it was entirely successful what it set out to do, but as a proof of concept, thought it was great, and did some pretty dark, interesting things. I'm a massive.
Why am I feeling
I'm a
you're
massive
slightly...
Black Mirror fan, so that helped.
Richard, I'm feeling you're slightly less than warm on it.
See the issue, not the issue. That's the wrong thing, because I don't have issues. I like when people try and push the envelope for art. The thing is that there's been kids' programs that have done exactly the same thing. There's like a Stretch Armstrong kids' cartoon. Now, I don't watch them, obviously, myself. I passively watch them while my son is watching them. But he was like, he was shouting through, Dad, help us with this, help us with the controller, help us with it, because we watch it through the PlayStation 4. I was like, well, would you just, you know how to work Netflix? And it's like, I went through and it was like, which way do you want to go? Do you want to go left? Do you want to go right? Or do you want to fight the bad guy with water? Or do you want to fight the bad guy with fire? So when Bandersnatch kind of came up, I guess there's only a finite amount of choices that you could get. And with somebody who grew up in kind of like choose your own adventure books, I think it was very, very good for people who'd maybe not experienced that as a kind of a new media. But I think even people that have played like the CD-ROM, Mega CD-ROM games back in the day kind of probably would have went, it was okay. I thought the acting was good. I kind of walked away from it from the end going, there were some bits that were obviously kind of fan, and I don't want to spoil it, but the kind of the doctor's office, with the fight.
Did you play through a second time?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I kind of went, I ended up I got stuck in a certain place, and there was a couple of bits which were genuinely shocking, and I thought as a piece of exploratory kind of art and getting people used to it, it was kind of cool. But I'd like to see kind of what they kind of did next. I think my issue with it was it became self-aware very quickly.
Yeah, that's
and when
true.
it got down to that route, I was kind of like, okay, you could have just kind of made hints here, but you're now just openly kind of doing it. So it kind of got a bit
openly just telling.
Kind of got a bit weird.
Well, I'm kind of glad that Stretch Armstrong, first of all, is still around. Because for me, that was one of the quintessential 90s toys that I had.
It's his kids kind of thing. Well, it's not. It's not. It's kind of like it's not kind of his kids. It's kind of like they've got kind of different powers. So that's kind of cool. But yeah.
Okay, but I think it was also just speaking about Bandersnatch. It just reminds me very heavily of just the type of game that defined the 90s, and that was the FMV. That it was just it was just a free, with parentheses. Free if you've got a Netflix subscription or know someone that does and you can piggyback off them. It's a free FMV game with some great actors. Not to say some FMV games didn't have great actors, but when you've got games like, I don't know, Phantasmagoria 2.
The prosecution kind of presents Night Trap.
Yeah. I was trying to remember.
Night Trap. Oh,
one of my friends.
And to a lesser extent, the Command and Conquer Red Alert games.
That used to be amazing.
Tim Curry acting his chops off.
But then again, there was like, I remember the Castlevania the Castlevania Mega CD game. Did you ever play that? And like
No.
the entire figure of Simon Belmont was made up kind of using kind of really bad kind of ragdoll physics. So every kind of thing, so he couldn't actually kind of walk along. He was like a collection of kneecaps. And it kind of didn't. It kind of didn't.
Collection of
It kind of didn't. Kind of. Well, I mean, you should look for it, but it was just like try to play it. It was just like because I came straight off the back of playing like the Super Nintendo version of Castlevania 4, and I used to work in a computer game shop for a while. So the boss kind of got this Mega CD, and he went, "Look at this! This is amazing!" And it sits on the Mega Drive, sits on top, and it looks fantastic. And you got to remember this was back. This was back when. DVDs kind of really didn't exist. You know, it was round about the kind of the, you know, it was pretty much round about the kind of the advent of DVDs. You got a DVD disc and you had to stop the film halfway through and flip it over to the other.
I've still got a copy of Goodfellas that does that. I've never upgraded it.
Wow.
I think
my only one that does that is Return of the King. The extended edition.
I think the first. Surprisingly enough, the first film I ever watched on DVD was The Matrix, and it did that.
Oh wow!
And it kind of stopped halfway through, and you kind of flip the disc. But anyway, the Mega CD at the time was. I remember I'm like, "Look at this! This is amazing!" And some of it was absolutely fantastic. They had like, I think the thing at the time they had a shoot 'em up. I think it was Gradius or Darius or whatever they call it, and it had like full orchestral, amazing CD quality music. They're pushing CD quality music as a thing at the time, and you were like going, "This is amazing," because you were used to kind of chipset music. So this is, you know, so that was where it kind of was. I am now standing in the forest. I have no idea where we are. We seem to be kind of completely lost, but that's fine because that's what we do. But you were talking about obviously the creation of content. So have you thought about, Ian? Have you thought about kind of getting kind of Jamie and Sam on board in the writing side, or for you, Jamie, is that just something that's like, I like to write the kind of the comedy sketchy type stuff. I'm not necessarily interested in sitting down and writing kind of my review of Dinosaur Island or whatever.
I would like to be able to write more, and I know I just need to sit down and write more, but I think it would take just a fair bit of time before I've got something that I'll be happy with. So I'm very happy to let Ian do that for now, but I know that Ian has said many times, listen, if you guys want to write something and put it on The Giant Brain, I'm more than welcome to let you.
Yeah, there's an open invitation to Jamie and Sam to, if they want to put out articles, they can get access to the site and put stuff out. I've got a couple of friends that have like been poking to write some articles for the site as well. Mate of mine who wants to write an review of High Frontier, which is a sort of big space exploration game that he really likes. I'd really like to play it as well. I know a couple of people have got a copy. But I'm definitely, over the next year or so, I'm hoping to invite a few people on to like write for the Brain and just get a few more contributors on. And I'm sort of toying with the idea of having more, not exactly interviews in the cast, like just changing the format up a little bit. Like we'd like to get sort of effectively guest reporters on.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about getting Ross from More Games Please on to do like an occasional art section.
Oh yeah, Ross is
which will theme in some way or form with stupid music, you know, big chair, comfy fire, that kind of thing, or something like that. And one thing the Bugle does, which was sort of inspiration for the Brainwaves cast, is when they have like a comedian on, that comedian instantly becomes like a specialist reporter in some sort of nonsense.
Yeah.
So
It's the Daily Show.
We could easily have someone on who's like a special reporter. So we're actually hoping to have one of the Lucky Sparrow folk on for the next cast because our exec producers have invited one of them to be on the cast with us and actually do some of the news stuff, that kind of thing, as well.
Yeah, but it takes time. I've come back from Aircon and you know, you come back with a drive up and it says, right, I'm gonna get home and I'm gonna write this full. You know, I'm going to write this, I'm going to video this, I'm going to record this, I'm going to send invites to these people, and it's just the time thing.
Yeah, you wonder when you're going to eat.
You just don't want it turning into a job. You know, you don't want it turning into that type of thing where, because I've always had the kind of the mindset that as soon as I'm not enjoying this, as soon as it becomes a task, as soon as it becomes a chore, as soon as I look down the list and I roll my eyes into the back of my head, that's when I know it's a good time to kind of turn around and say, okay, this was fun, this was great, it's now time to do, something else instead, which is always, but that's kind of, I guess that's my kind of personality. It's one of the reasons I've slowed down on the writing a wee bit as well, was I was suffering a wee bit of burnout with it, trying to sort of put out an article a week. So I found like slowing down and taking a bit more time with it has made me find the joy of it a little bit more again, which is good. And it's also just not, it's okay if you're writing reviews as well, just not try to write reviews where it's here's the mechanics and this is whether I liked it or not. Yeah, it's not just that, it's like sort of mechanical breakdowns and that kind of thing. They just take time to write.
There's no point writing a review that is just here's the mechanics of the game. It's so much more than that. It's get an iPhone review and just talk entirely about the graphics card and what the internal workings are like. It's nonsense. And I completely agree with you. I think that looking at the day that you look at, I've got to do the podcast, right? I really can't be bothered doing this podcast. Is the day you go, do you know what? I might have to take a step back. Yeah. Because everyone, no matter what they did, got into board games for fun as a hobby. Yeah. Some people have decided to take it a little bit further into a semi-professional thing of making a podcast or doing a YouTube channel or a channel. Fantastic. And props to them, because you know what? They've got a work ethic that at times I am green with envy for. I mean, it's one of the reasons I wanted three of us, really, so that like we have, I think we've only done this once so far, but one cast I couldn't make it, and Jamie and Sam did a cast by themselves. Oh no, we've done one with me and Jamie as well. Yeah, and Sam. Yeah, but that we did a you and me because it was UK Games Expo one, and then there was because Sam couldn't make it, and there was one that you couldn't make, so me and Sam. It means the cast can still go out, but one of us doesn't have to be there if need be. Yeah. Do you think there's pressure to be as big as you can be? Like once you start kind of making stuff, recording stuff. I don't want to use the CC word because I don't like it. But do you think there's there's the automatic kind of expectation to be kind of writing reviews, recording reviews, doing videos and stuff like that? You just can't settle down and just be a really, really good podcast kind of thing, especially if you're kind of involved in kind of making commentary on things. I would say because you look at some of the big ones, and just the two that come to mind are Shut Up and Sit Down and the Dice Tower. And the Dice Tower has a lot of people, but still, I can't remember if it started off just as a podcast or maybe it started off just as online reviews. But both of them are now online reviews, some written reviews. There's the news. I know at least the Shut Up and Sit Down one every Monday, and there's the podcast, and it's. They're doing so much, and admittedly, they're doing very, very well. And there are some that maybe just do one or two. So I think the big ones managed to spread themselves quite well, and it means that there is this potential to go right. Okay, we need to be doing this and this if we want to keep up with them, but we don't need to because it's a massive hobby. We're all finding our niches, and I think, as we've kind of said, I think we're beginning to find our niche not bad at all. I mean, like Jamie says, like there are those big boys, and they've basically turned into a job. Dice Tower and Shop and Sit Down have both turned their hobby into a job. That's kudos for them. And would I like to write professionally about board games? Yes, that'd be amazing. That's not going to happen, very likely, and I'm realistic about that. And the podcast is doing fine as it is. And it's about being happy with your own progress. Like we get a couple of extra viewers a month. Like we're constantly sort of adding a little bit of the average number of casts continues to sort of rise at a steady pace. I'm fairly happy with that. Would it be nice to be like invited to like cons in far-flung corners of the world to be guests? Yes, but I have no idea if that'll ever happen or not. But it's not going to happen without a lot of work on all our ends. And although we keep saying, it's doing fine, It's not it's doing fine so we can all rest on our laurels. It's doing fine, but we can always push ourselves to be that little bit better and hopefully try and get that viewer or listener who might go, should I not? Let's try and get it. So
yeah, but at the same time, I don't know if I'd want this as a job. I would want, guess, do you know what I'd like? I guess I'd like the choice to be able to not kind of have it as a job, but to have it as an option that I could kind of fill my day. I guess I want my cake and eat it. I want to have, enough money to be able to live off of. But I also want to be able to have, I guess, the choice and the freedom to be able to say, this week I am having to email Jamie Stegmaier to ask for a preview copy of Wingspan instead, and having to be, oh my God, I hope I get this copy, because otherwise my video for this week is destroyed, my write-up for this month is wrecked, I'm not going to be able to speak about it on the podcast. And I think there are a lot of people that you can end up in that kind of situation where you're chasing the new and the shiny, which can lead to a bit of a backlash, as I say to...
It's the danger of the cult of the new, which I think, I mean, and I know that's a phrase that's used somewhat disparagingly. At times, you can understand why. At times, you think that's a little bit unfair. I think, especially with the sketches, occasionally we do go for the newer things. So we've done one, Champion of the Wild when it was coming out, when Fog of Love, not when it came out, because again, that was our first one, but it was still very much in the public eye. But we can go back and go, like I always go, okay, let me look at the board games I've got. What do I think can make a semi-decent sketch? Is it a game that's new? Doesn't have to be. I mean, Deep Sea Adventure is several years old. And I'm quite enjoy that. So we can take a step back, almost a retrospective for a news podcast and go, remember these games? Oh, they still exist and they're still great.
Yeah, I think there definitely is that thing of like a lot of the sort of like names in the industry will chase the new thing, and that's fair enough. They sort of need to be at the forefront of that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but like Jamie says, we were in the position where like we don't get new releases from Asmodee to review. Most of the review copies I get are people reaching out to me through the site, and I tend to try and reach out now and again to like smaller companies as well. And that's done me okay with review copies over the last year or so. And of course, there's like just reviewing games of Jamie's that I've played and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
I don't really want... Yeah, I know I said that kind of thing again.
No, it's fine. I'm not judging you.
Yes, you
it's
are.
just, it's me kind of going, I know that... No, I'm not. It's every time we bring things up, it's like, oh, this game. I've said, like, I've got this game. You're like, I always want to play this. And I'm looking back at my shelf and I'm like, I think half of it, Iain just wants to come over and play.
So it sounds about right. You keep
just
mentioning games from,
but that's what I really like.
Yes, please.
That's what I really like about each of our three collections. That we've got some similarities, like Captain Sonar, King of Tokyo, but we've got these massive shifts as well. Like I know Sam really loves Days of Wonder.
Oh right, okay.
And it's has got a Days of Wonder shelf. No, he wasn't. No,
you're a worker placement guy.
Not that one yet. I supposedly am the worker placement guy because I have about 5 worker placement games on my shelf. But yeah, we go for very esoteric things, and obviously Iain and Sam are very big on card games. So you've got the Arkham Horror stuff. They've got Keyforge, and I have got a couple of packs of Keyforge, but only so occasionally if they come over, I'm like, I've got a deck. Because normally I really don't care. I mean, where I work, I've just started playing the Pokemon trading card game.
Right, okay. And that's a good game. I mean, I'm not going to shame you for that, because I used to play it with my son all the time, and I still play it with my son all the time. Yeah. And it's a damn fine, challenging, fun game with lots of little meta in it and stuff like that as a game. So yeah,
I remember when it first came out. When I was the same age as most of the kids playing it at my work. I work at an after-school club. To quantify, not just I approach random children and go, let's play Pokemon. And yeah, I remember it coming out, and I collected the cards just to collect the cards. But now at work, there's like 6 decks that the kids have, and they can just go and play them. And I sat down a couple of months ago and went, right, teach me how to play this. And you know what? It's only 6 decks, and the kids going, right, well, I always want to play that deck because that's great. And still not understanding certain rules, or like rules of weaknesses. So I'm kind of going, well, look at this, because that says it's weak to grass type, so that'll do double damage. So if I do that to you, it's going to knock you out. And they go, oh, I'm going to stop that. I'm like, great. It keeps changing. And yeah, a game that I dismissed as a game for kids. I agree. It's got this wonderful little meta, and it's not to say I'll start collecting Pokemon cards. It's just I know what to do now.
No, I've got a pile of my middle son, my eldest. He used to play it. He moved on to Yu-Gi-Oh! He's now moved on to kind of Warhammer now. So his younger brother has now inherited all his Pokemon cards. So we occasionally kind of bring it to the table. I must say, gentlemen, I do laugh at the irony that you both own a copy of Captain Sonar that requires a minimum of at least 8 players in order to kind of get the best experience for some reason.
I was about to get rid of my copy of my recent purge, but then they announced the campaign, and I'm like, might get that.
Yeah.
Bite.
I think we both got it at pretty much the same time. And it was when we were we knew who each other were, but we didn't know each other, if that makes sense. And then Ian mentioned the Tabletop Cafe in Edinburgh. And one day Ian went, right, I'd like to host a game of Captain Sonar here one evening. And we got those 8-player games, and there's a reason. That is pretty much the solid reason it is in my top 10 favorite gaming experiences, because the madness, the fun, the stress. Oh, the stress!
Yeah, it's a brilliant game, and everyone should play it. It's basically, if you don't know what it is, folks, it's battleships basically turned up to 11. It's fantastic,
and it's like all the different roles.
But what Ian forgets to say, it's in real time.
Yeah, it is totally.
There's that little rule thing that means everything just gets more stressed.
It is kind of like Star Trek, the middle act where everything is just absolutely gone to crap, and the red alerts are on, and everything's just like, what are we going to do?
I would love a Star Trek version of Captain Sonar.
Well, I've just claimed that, so I'm going to go away and make it. And if Captain,
there's your copyright.
The Starship simulators you get at Games Expo and stuff like that. Like, what's it? Bridge Simulator. Yeah.
It's either Artemis Spaceship Bridge Simulator or Empty Epsilon. I only say that because I've been playing a lot. Yeah, been playing them a lot with my friends.
Artemis is the one
we get drunk. A lot, I think. We get drunk and play it in. We get drunk and play it in one of our friends' living rooms.
So, I guess pitch time, because people will be listening along tonight, and hopefully that'll be more than enough for them to kind of tune in and check out the podcast. But what would you say is the kind of, and you can both have a shot at this, okay? Jamie, tell me.
Ian goes first.
Tell me.
Okay.
Don't stick the V's up at me. There's no need for that.
How dare you, sir?
Shocking.
Okay, Ian, do you want to give us I'm just letting you off the hook after that because I feel threatened. Ian, do you want to give us the quick 30-second reason as to why you should tune in? And don't be smiling and drinking away, because you're getting a shot next, sir. Don't say I can't see right. Okay, Ian, do you want to give us a quick...
Glasgow City Council will provide.
Do you want to give us a 30-second reason as to why you should check out Brainwaves on a podcast catcher near you?
So, Brainwaves is a fortnightly news-based podcast all about tabletop games. We cover board games, RPGs, all sorts of games. And basically, we go down the news mines and find the choicest nuggets of news for you, so you don't have to. We also include lots of little skits and conversations and discussions about the topics in the board game industry. And yeah, it's short, sharp. It's only about 30 minutes of your day. So yeah, check it out.
Okay, so that's the challenge being laid down. Jamie, can you give us... He's gone. He's gone. I can't see him. He's actually gone. He's back.
I'm back. I'm hello. Don't worry. I never went anywhere. I was fooling you. I was disguised as nothing.
Right. Big 2 capital letters, basically. Right, go on then. Come on, you've had your 30 seconds. Let's see it. Okay. Do you need to warm up? Breathe. Yeah. Whenever you're ready. Go.
I'm ready.
Go then. Ready. Don't say that. We had a discussion about this off cast about you being ready. Go for it.
Oh dear. Every 2 weeks, the Brainwaves team, and that's only 3 hard-working people who do this because we love it so much, go out in our trawler of news. We troll the board game seas for the finest choice fillets of news. We bring them back, we prepare them, and we lay them out to you on our wonderful audio platter. It's three guys who enjoy board games for what they are, what they were, and they can and will be. We chat about pardon me. We chat about we discuss some controversial issues in board gaming. We each have our own likes, our own dislikes. We're not always going to agree and disagree, and that's part of the fun of it, because board games are for everybody, and we want to show people that. We want to make people hear and listen and understand that. And maybe you like a little bit of comedy, and there's also some sketches.
So there you go.
Sprinkling comedy.
I think that's probably the best of both sides of what Brainwaves can bring you. Of course, you've also got the kind of the main Giant Brain site, which is at thegiantbrain.com.
Giantbrain.co.uk.
It is .co.uk. Thank you for correcting me there, sir. But no, I mean, if where can people find you on the internet webs, Ian? Where do we exist? Where do we find you?
So you can find us on Twitter at The Giant Brain, Instagram, Giant Brain UK, Facebook, just search The Giant Brain, you'll find us. Website we just mentioned is www.giantbrain.co.uk, and you can email us at giantbrainuk@gmail.com. And if you want to get in touch with us about the show, if you've got any tasty bits of news, especially we're really trying to reach out to sort of smaller indie UK publishers as well. If you've got little bits of news about upcoming releases, cons, that kind of thing, do get in touch and we'll mention them on the show.
Fantastic. And what about you, Jamie? Where do you exist on the internet webs if people should decide to follow you?
If people want to follow me, I'm flattered, honestly. Usually just find me on Twitter. I have no idea what my handle is. Just search for, I think it's just Jamie Adams. Maybe Jamie W. Adams. And there's me looking... What was the word you said, Richard? Slightly smouldering?
Slightly smouldering, I did say.
Slightly smouldering.
It's at Jamie _W _Adams.
Thank you, Ian. I'll post up there very occasionally. Usually it's nonsense. Or you can listen to me on Brainwaves.
Cool. So what we'll do is we'll put all those links in the show notes so that we have notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to the internet web, search for We're Not Wizards. You'll find us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards, on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. You'll find us on Instagram at We're Not Wizards. We've got our website, which is we'renotwizards.com. Got our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. We've got, anywhere, everywhere. Just search for us and you shall find us. YouTube and places like that. We even started putting kind of YouTube videos up like there because I am a hypocrite. You can find us in all the podcast catchers of choice. Your Acast and Stitcher and Spreaker and Google Podcasts and Spotify. We're even on Spotify. You poor, lovely streaming people out there. If you like what you've listened, then drop us a rating or a review. If you like even more than that, then consider going to Apple Podcasts and giving us a subscription, a rating or a review. Remember to go and check out Brainwaves as well and make sure you drop them a subscription, and also consider dropping them a rating or a review as well. If you are going to be giving them a rating or a review, don't give them 10 stars because you don't want these guys getting big-headed. But don't give him 1 star, because Jamie may be smouldering, but we don't want to make Jamie cry. And we certainly don't want to upset Sam. So don't give him 1 star either. Give him something in the middle. Like a 5. Like a 5, because it's average. Because they are...
Or if you like it, maybe a 7 or an 8.
No, you're ruining the joke. The iTunes rating is out of 5. And
oh, okay, that's fine.
Because they are average.
See, this is how backwards I am. I've got a Nokia 3310. I am living in the Luddite world.
Ah, dear. But the people who have not been average is a rather wonderful, fantastic. I give you Ian, and I give you Jamie, and they share a giant brain, and we're sad because Sam's not here, but we'll get over it at some point. So thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate the time you've given us today. There's only two more things to do. First thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Ian?
I do dabble. has to be said. Do dabble.
I have heard. What about you, Jamie? Are you a wizard?
Only when I play D&D.
That's not good enough. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Ian. Say goodbye, Ian.
Goodbye, Ian.
And it's a goodbye from Jamie. Say goodbye, Jamie.
Say goodbye, Jamie.
It's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll success. And if you're looking for a little bit of extra Scottish tabletop in your life, then don't tell yourself goodbye. Don't tell yourself hello, but give yourself a little wave, like a brain wave. But until the next time, goodbye. I'm sorry.
Not sorry enough.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.